We're out here on a sunny but very cold morning here at the end of February. Definitely starting to feel like the transition between winter and spring. The sun gets stronger every day, but the weather recently has been pretty darn cold. Last night was a low in the upper teens, low 20s. The ground is still pretty rock solid frozen. That said, the experiments of heating this high tunnel with compost have been moving forward in positive ways. I want to do an update now on where we are with that. So let's step inside where it's a little nicer and take a look. It's nice to see anything green this time of year. A lot of the mustards that were sown in the fall have been starting to perk up in some nice way. The miner's lettuce through here, which we can be eating fresh, is starting to come up and grow actively. But this compost pile is really doing some interesting work, and I wanted to share some notes overall on this. If this is not familiar to you, check out the previous video, which was put up maybe about 7 days ago, talking about the building of this. But basically it's an active compost pile made with some really hot ingredients, fair bit of carbon in there to hopefully have it move slowly and steadily. And I've got 2 temperature probes in here. I had some old seed of lettuces, tatsoi, and cilantro that I sowed directly onto the compost that was on top of here. I'm actually very surprised how well they're growing. We've got 1 temp probe in here that's all the way in. That hit a high of 130 Fahrenheit. It's been holding at about 110, which is quite warm, but it's also about 18 inches deep in there. So the heart of this compost is holding with a really good, potent warmth to it. The temperature probe that's in just a little bit is holding at around 72, 74, which is pretty amazingly nice germination temperature. And that's at this depth, about 4 to 6 inches down. I'll be honest, I'm pretty surprised that any of this germinated. You can see I sowed it in a ridiculously tight way. These were seeds that we had saved back in 2015, so I just figured I might as well use them and see what they can do. We've had temperatures down since I set this up. The lowest I think so far was 10 degrees, and this did not freeze at all. So at the moment, this is working incredibly well to provide very reliable warmth, to keep the air and the soil directly around it safely from not freezing, all the way down to a difference of 20 degrees. I would suspect that within a few weeks we could lift and transplant all of these cooler weather seedlings, move them out to the garden or into containers, and get this soaked with a little more compost tea, get it revitalized, and sow this out to tomatoes, peppers, and the like. And even if we got a very intense cold snap, with a little protection overnight, this would keep those from freezing and really help stimulate germinating. Remains to be seen if the nutrient in here is too extreme, and as these develop deeper roots, do they get burnt? Do they have problems? I'll share notes, but so far they look great. That said, what hasn't happened is the magic that I hoped, that this radiator of compost warmth would magically make the whole space immune from freezing. It has definitively improved the overall temperature in this space. And when we have a low of 20, it keeps the airspace in here near thawed out. The ground hasn't frozen at all. That's nice and wet. But this morning, these mustards had a little crust on them. But these are cold crops, they can handle that. But we certainly wouldn't be sowing peppers and tomatoes and eggplants in this kind of soil just yet. Sasha went through and sowed it temporarily with all the sawdust to a bunch of radishes and turnips just to fill it out. But I can see that we had a low last night of 28. So that was almost 8 degrees warmer than the outside air. But this is right at ground level. This is one of the coldest spots in this high tunnel. And at 28, that's a good temperature to keep cool, hardy plants from having too much stress. but that would kill fragile seedlings for sure. Now, if we had a low tunnel in here, that could definitely be another layer of experiment, quite literally and figuratively, is a low tunnel that paired up to this compost pile so that some of the heat that's radiating off of here could be held and distributed. Maybe in the future this compost pile could have a circuit run through it, a PEX circuit or a perforated tube that could be buried under all that. Definitely ways to improve this. This could be insulated. This is just single 6 mil. But overall, for next to no money and for an hour or two of moving compost that eventually we want in here anyway, it's pretty neat how well it's worked in that space. Let's look at one other area. Another promising direction in all of this experimenting, but nothing mind-shattering. At some point I'll make a video explaining how I built these, but they're basically insulated polycarbonate panels that I was able to get used, and they have definitely made a difference. On a sunny day, when the air temperature in here is around 50 degrees, it definitely gets up to 70, 80 degrees in here very easily. On cold nights, when we get well below freezing, with these lids closed, the soil in the mornings, I've been checking every morning, in the center of these beds, the soil is completely thawed out, no problems. And it's been warm enough that some of the seeds that are just in here, so here's a random brassica, there's some other random seedlings coming up, mainly brassicas, maybe some dill. So things are germinating in here, but I can also see on the north side of it a little bit of ice crust. So the coldest portions of these boxes are still not immune to freezing down to the upper teens outside. Where Sasha sowed some seed of lettuce and broccolis, it doesn't look like anything is germinating just yet, but it also feels like the soil's staying cool, but not freezing really hard around them. So it's promising. For being a passive system and something we can move around and work in different ways, it feels like it's worthwhile to have these. Soon enough, this week we're going to be getting reliably into the 50s with lows near freezing but not below freezing. We're getting very close to actively starting a much wider range of seeds. These little experiments, not spending a lot of money, not spending a lot of time and effort, we're learning a lot, but we're not getting amazing results where it's like, you have to do these things in order to grow. But we'll keep sharing notes, and these little boosts, it's kind of fun this time of year, and we'll see where we go from here. Thanks for watching.